Wolves vs Leeds United, May 1972. In this video, we rewind back to 1972 with glam rock, flared trousers and dodgy hairstyles ruled the day. Leeds United had just won the FA Cup, and 2 days later on a Monday night, they travelled to Wolves for a title decider. 1 point and the league title would be theirs. If they lost, then Derby County under Brian Clough would win the title. What happened next is the stuff of legends both on and off the field. First, we have Wolves fan Mike, who told us, "Everything about the match was pandemonium from start to finish. So much publicity it's hard to put it into context for the modern football fan. All the Sunday papers were talking about one thing, this match. Mainly because there were reports of match-fixing attempts by Leeds players, including the late great Billy Bremner. I have a newspaper report from September 1972, so at the start of the next season, which reads Leeds, find these men." The article describes how Leeds are to probe allegations of attempts to fix last season's final match against Wolves that cost them the championship. It goes on to say that they would be investigating the Sunday People allegation that they had statements from Dave Wagstaff and Frank Munro claiming they were offered bribes to throw the game. 2 Leeds players, famous internationals, were said to know that some Wolves men received £1,000 bribe offers. The article then quotes the Leeds chairman Manny Cousins saying that it would be up to our manager Don Revie to find out who the 2 players are. The other headline is entitled, "I warned my players they would be out for life, McGarry." The story describes how rumours of an attempted fix were rife in Wolverhampton on the day of the match. Frank Munro, Phil Parkes, Mike Bailey and Dave Wagstaff denied that they had been approached to throw the game, for those supporters not familiar with the game behind the story. Leeds United beat Arsenal in the FA Cup final on the Saturday before the following Monday's title decider at Wolves. A league game after the FA Cup final was itself a break with tradition. I know the Liverpool v Arsenal game in 1989 was played after the final, but that was due to the Hillsborough tragedy. I'm guessing that winter postponements caused this one at Molineux. Anyway, the title finale for 1972 was a 4-horse race. Liverpool, who could have taken the title with a good win, drew at Arsenal. Man City, Liverpool and Leeds were locked on 57 points, whilst Derby sat precariously on top of the league on 58 points, awaiting the Wolves or Leeds result. In fact, Cloughy took his Derby team on holiday to sweat it out on Mallorca. Meanwhile, the media, and most neutral football fans, believed that Leeds would achieve the double with the minimum requirement of a draw at Molineux. Besides, surely Wolves would be saving themselves for their crucial second leg EUFA Cup final at White Hart Lane 9 days later. My memories of the match are threefold. Firstly, the official attendance of 53,000 was clearly inaccurate as thousands of fans had forced their way into the South Bank just after kick-off. Having been present at a number of 50,000-plus games in the late 60s, this game was clearly different. For a start, I had never seen so many people watching the game from the floodlights. They sought vantage points right up to the highest level. No mean feat, as Wolves' floodlights were considered to be the highest in England. Secondly, the wing of the South Bank on the Molineux street side was a swaying, seething mass of bedlam. This part of Molineux, as most older fans will recall, could look quite sparse, even with a 38,000-plus crowd in Molineux. Indeed, I believe that scores of supporters were injured in that part of the ground, when a number of crash barriers buckled under the strain. Finally, the match itself, played in a cauldron of deafening noise, quickly went Wolves' way with Munro and Dugan putting Wolves 2-0 up. Then, if I remember correctly, Dugan had what appeared to be a good second goal ruled out. Then, the nail-biting finale. Bremner pulled one back, and it was backs to the South Bank as Wolves survived a Leeds onslaught. With the benefit of hindsight, in that the referee was aware of the bribe controversy. I wonder what it would have taken for Leeds to win a penalty. I can clearly remember Wolves full-back Bernard Shaw swiping away the ball with his hand in the Wolves' 6-yard box in front of a stunned North Bank. There was footage of another handball, can't remember the Wolves player, that came under severe media scrutiny in the weeks that followed. I am in no way suggesting that any of the Wolves players were got at, but there were plenty of allegations in the world of football over the following months. I vaguely remember a TV expose on World in Action or Panorama that heavily implicated Don Revere in the approaches allegedly made to Wolves players before the game. I saw lots of fighting after the match, with jubilant Wolves fans goading and then receiving beatings from gutted Leeds fans. It was basically carnage, really, with running battles between police and fans, then between both sets of fans. The Wolves' North Bank had gone out to meet the Leeds nutters in Molineux Street, and World War III erupted. Not sure how many arrests were made, but it must have been huge. There's always been animosity between us since, and I know this channel has made 2 videos of the repercussions of this match. Wolves and Leeds has always been and will always be feisty because of this event, Leeds fan Ryan told us. This was a mad day out, I say day, as it was really a long weekend, as many of us had been down to Wembley to see us beat Arsenal in the Cup final, which was an amazing story in itself. But now here we were in Wolverhampton waiting to see if we could get the 1 point needed to win the league title. Wolves were no mugs and about 9th in the league. In normal circumstances we should have beat them, but because of all the rumours and reports of the bribery scandal, there was no way they could go down without a fight. And what a fight it proves, both on and off the pitch. This was pre-service crew days, when hooliganism was in its infancy. But there was no trouble before the match, as the town centre was full of Leeds. Every pub was Leeds, apart from one, which sounds about right, as Wolves fans would have been at work, I guess. It seemed like the whole of Leeds had been diverted to Wolverhampton. Getting to the match was fine, no trouble at all. But the crush outside the South Bank, Leeds End, was unbearable. Me and my mates were involved in a terrible crush, which could easily have turned into a Hillsborough-style disaster. The gates at the back of the stand finally gave way, and many thousands of Leeds entered the ground via this way, with the police unable to stop them. That South Bank used to be one of, if not the biggest stand in England, and I think its official capacity was 25,000. I tell you, there were 40,000 Leeds in there that night. It was unbelievably crushing. Many times my feet were lifted off the floor. It's a miracle no one was killed. The atmosphere was the best I've ever experienced. The noise from the Leeds fans in that South Bank was unbelievable, and the Wolves North Bank weren't half bad either. It was deafening at times. I've heard Leeds fans saying we took the Wolves End, their North Bank, but it's simply not true. There were some Leeds in the North Bank, but they were removed for their own safety, which was amusing because they put them in the crush zone of the South Bank. The match went against us, with Wolves scoring twice before Bremner pulled one back for us. Then it was pandemonium, with us laying siege to the Wolves goal in front of the South Bank packed with Leeds. But not to be. Their keeper had one of those games and was brilliant, along with a lot of luck, penalty appeals, goal line scrapes, you name it. It happened in a pulsating last 15 minutes. But alas, not to be, and Derby were the champions. Eventually we got out of the ground and into a scene I can only describe as like a battlefield. Leeds fans were running Wolves fans all over the place. The police were powerless to stop so many angry Leeds fans venting their anger out on the jubilant, goading Wolves fans. We got lost and ended up in the town centre, which is some way from the coaches. Then got chased by some Wolves who were out prowling for revenge. Ended up asking some copper where the coach park was, and he showed us the way, and took us halfway till we could see where he meant. The Wolves lads had by now met their match with Leeds, chasing them in the distance. Eventually we made it out of Wolverhampton, but the traffic was so bad we hardly moved for hours. I got back to Leeds at 6 AM and was supposed to be at work at 8, so it was a day sicky for me and my mates. Great times to be a Leeds fan, and I wouldn't change a thing other than the result. People have said since there might have been 70,000 in the ground that night, and I'm inclined to agree. What a night. We thank Mike and Ryan for their recollections. It's clear that this was quite an occasion in the good old days of mass terracing. The scenes in the South Bank with people being crushed sounds quite scary though, and it's unclear as to who got the better of the hooligan contest after the match. One thing's for sure though, it will always be remembered by all that were there. Thanks for watching. Please share, like and subscribe, as it really helps our channel grow.